Guys, today we have here somebody very, very special. If you're in the UK, I'm sure you've heard the role health visitor before. But prior to coming to the UK, I had not heard it before. In fact, even when I was in the UK, until I had my baby, I did not know who health visitors were. Today, we're going to dissect who they are and being a nurse for children with special needs.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
Yes.
Stop that. So,
Yes.
welcome to my channel, Barbara. Can you briefly tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. So, my name is Barbara Kombe, and I'm a registered children's nurse and also a health visitor, and now a specialist public practitioner, but specializing in special educational needs.
Okay. How long have you been in the UK?
So, I've been in the UK for over 20 years, but I've been a registered nurse for just over coming up to 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. We are not your mates at all. Wow. So that means you did children nursing.
That's right. I did pediatric nursing from the start. Yes, I've always been interested in children, so I went straight in there with my training as a children's nurse. And I worked in the acute sector, so I actually worked in a hospital setting, oncology and respiratory ward for a while. After which, to be honest, the shifts, I don't know how you guys still do it with children. The shifts were really long, and I was finding it difficult to actually manage my child as well as working on the ward. And that's why I became a health visitor.
So if you don't do pediatric nursing, can you still be a health visitor?
Yes, you can. So health visitors are basically nurses or midwives, but then they go on to have an extra year's training in health visiting, and you actually take on a different part of the NMC registry, which is called a SCIFN. So you'll be a registered public health nurse, which stands for Specialist Public Health Nurse.
You said that you don't necessarily have to do pediatric nursing to be a health visitor in the UK. You can either be a midwife or you can be an adult nurse.
That's right.
But then
Yes.
But
Then
you
you go on to have more training.
So is this training like in the university, or like how's it done?
So the training is actually partly with the university and with an NHS trust.
Okay.
So yes, yeah. So you're sponsored by an NHS trust, but
Okay.
you do it in a university. So you also be working as a health visitor and you get paid.
Okay. So can you do this on your own? Let's say you don't work in the NHS or you've not gotten the opportunity to do this while you're in the NHS. Can you do this on your own, like apply to a university to do this 1 year training to be like a health visitor?
No. So what actually happens is that for you to get on to the health visiting training, you go online and look for health visiting training jobs within an NHS trust, any NHS trust. So they will actually be advertised as a job, and then you apply on to that job. And when you finish, you don't necessarily have to work with that trust, but of course, usually they do want you to stay on there and work with them. So that trust then is then responsible for training you, and of course, in the end, that you will work with them.
Wow. What is special about being a health visitor? I know you mentioned the timing, so I guess the time is quite flexible. Like, what time do you usually start work? What time do you close? How is it like?
So it's a 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday. And why it is a specific and special is the fact that it is a government program, which is why health visitors are trained, especially just to deliver that program, which is called a Healthy Child Program. And so you can imagine working in the home intimately with families and supporting them throughout their precious time from having a baby up until the child is 5. So there is actually a need for that specialist training because it's a different type of nursing, so to speak.
And for those who don't know, maybe they're yet to come to the UK, what are your responsibilities? Like I said, the first time I met a health visitor was after I had my baby. They were coming in to take measurements, weigh the baby, advise me, educate me a few things. And then I think they have specific age, whatever, that they come to their homes.
That's right.
Recently, my baby had a 2-year visit from the health visitor just about 2 or 3 days ago. But this is what I know. So let me know, like, what are your main responsibilities as well, aside you going to homes of, let's say, new mothers or kids to take their weight and all that? What else do you do?
So Our role is specifically for public health. So we are really looking at identifying health needs and being able to deliver the Healthy Child program, which really entails supporting those families, especially in the first sort of 1,001 days, which is really crucial for the development of the young baby or infant. And so we are supporting parents to enable them to be able to identify what is required to nurture their child and also be able to look after them when they're unwell. We are advising them on obviously any health complications any child may have. And by the way, growth is everything. So when we are weighing those children, we're also looking at whether they are actually attaining their age appropriate milestones at their various stages. So we are the advisory body, I guess, that is for families. When you really think about the importance of bringing a child into this world, and by the time they get on to being an adult, there is no other services, even within the NHS, that actually looks after those intricacies of ensuring that the child becomes who they should be and be able to nurture them in that way. Yes, we have the midwives, they look after the pregnant woman up until they give birth, and after that, there is nothing. So, our role is specifically for that in-between sort of lifespan. We do run clinics, so we do child health clinics or well baby clinics, and we are there to support families as well in terms of their mental health, especially for the parents, and then looking at the actual development of the child.
So guys, if you're listening to us and this sounds like something you're interested in, I think maybe you should, consider that as well.
This is the ultimate time to become a health visitor. There is such a shortage, there's such a huge demand for health visitors. So there is no shortage of training, and most of the NHS trusts have been out there recruiting, and I'm here even campaigning for health visits for people to come and join the profession.
And I'm very sure that because it's under the NHS, obviously they do offer visa sponsorship for internationally registered nurses.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are the challenges, would you say? We have to know before we come, now that you are coming.
What are the challenges? Personally, I haven't found any challenges. I think possibly just the sheer amount of work right now, because obviously there is a shortage. But for people who are not used to working 9 to 5, who likes their 3 days, long days, and then 2 days off, may find that a challenge, I guess. The shift to actually working a whole 5 days a week, but is very flexible. And you can do your diary, you manage your own diary, and you're able to work, either starting from straight from home to seeing your client, and then afterwards you can do your administration. Perhaps one of the challenges could be the fact that you may work in some family homes that you can come across verbal abuse or physical abuse. In some cases, it's very rare, but that can happen. But we have safeguarding measures of safe sky guards, things that we wear for security, and that can go straight to the police and your NHS trust that looks after you. Perhaps that is the only challenge I can think of.
And I also see that you usually come in your own cars. Do you get paid, because you're moving from one home to the other?
So yes, there is a fuel allowance. Many trusts will pay anything ranging from, it's a pittance, but 23 pence to 45 pence per litre. So you will be given that mileage to be able to pay for your petrol. You are also helped to get a lease car if that is what you want through the NHS Trust, if you want to purchase your own car, or you can use what we call a pool car. These are cars that are already owned by the NHS Trust. So you basically go in and sign for it to use it for that day or for that time. Some trusts are also trialing out bicycles because we have to go into homes. Yeah, and some distances, you may cover some distances depending on the area that you're covering.
And what's the salary like? Because I see that you work 9 to 5, so it's not the usual 11 hours or 12 hours shift that most nurses usually take. So that means less hours in a day. So I'm just wondering how the salary is like at the end of the month.
Yeah. So you still work your 37.5 hours, and again, it's flexible if you want to work less. But the salary ranges from 30,000 to about 45,000. If you go on to a band 7, so this role is actually band 6. So if you go on to a band 7, you can earn up to 50,000.
So it's an automatic band 6 role. So you are following the usual like band 6 annual, okay. And then what's
Exactly.
the career progression like? So how do you get to band 7 in that role?
Okay. In the first instance, when you are a health visitor, you have also a pathway that you can take if you want to. So you can actually specialize in maybe looking after families who are asylum seekers, or maybe looking after families who are just teenage mothers under something called an FNP program, which is a family nurse partnership. Or you can actually just specialize in safeguarding, which is perhaps just looking after very vulnerable children and doing all the child protection caseloads. Or you can become a health visitor with for special educational needs. So you can really sort of within just the band 6 do that. As you progress into knowing that role, you can then become a band 7, and that again is a natural progression to doing that.
So I know that you have specialized now with kids with special needs. So that means now you're a band 7.
Yes.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
So what is that like as well?
Yeah. So actually, for me to get into the sector of special educational needs was almost an accident. Okay. Because I was working in the acute sector and I wanted to have some flexibility with my child. So I went and applied for community nursing. And whilst I was there, they had a vacancy for somebody to cover one of the special educational needs schools. And so within those schools, we had a lot of children with tracheostomies and peg feeds and epilepsy, and some of them on oxygen coming to school. So they needed somebody with some pediatric experience. So I went to join that team, and I stayed there for 3 years. They couldn't recruit anyone. But when I wanted to get onto now a band 6, I was a band 5, they said I needed a degree. And that's how I came to then study and do a health visiting practitioner course, which then got me onto the band 6. So for the longer I worked with special educational needs, the more I loved it, and I just then continued. And because of that experience, it enabled me to become a band 7 then.
So now you only visit the homes of kids with special needs. Is that what you do now? That's
Yes. And just support other health visitors to be able to support those families as well. So it's almost like more consulting, if that makes sense, because now it's more specialist. You've got that little bit of extra knowledge, so you can help the other health visitors to be able to ensure that those families' needs are met.
People like you make us proud, you know that. Wow. So now what's the salary like?
So earning up to 50,000.
Wow. So when you say 50,000, what's the monthly like?
Oh, the monthly, you can earn up to 3 grand. Okay. You can earn up to 3 grand.
You have your weekends off. You
can have your weekends off. Yes. And you can do extra if you want to, because sometimes, within health visiting, you've got immunizations as well. So we do immunizations. So if you wanted to do immunizations on the weekend, you can do that on the bank or yes.
So what is your advice for anyone that wants to go into this role?
My advice is go for it. If you're really, really interested and you want to talk to me about it, that's fine. Please do. But for some, I guess if you really maybe are interested in actually just going to shadow a health visitor for a day, that's also ideal, because then you get a feel of how it really is. And because NHS trusts are in such a shortage, go and shadow. Go and see what it's like. This is something that I honestly would say for everybody with a child. Just come into health visiting. You'll never want to go back. The flexibility and the fact that you get to enjoy your walks out in the sun, exercise, get fit.
So, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, are you on social media? How do they reach you?
So I am on social media, but I tend to use the handles for the organization that I founded, which is Hope and Salvation, which is basically an NGO. We're trying to support families with special educational needs, especially in Africa. Wow. Because that's where my heart is. I feel that we have such a good model here. They have all the resources and is trying to help families back home. So I am on all the social media handles, but under Hope and Salvation. That's Hope and then N Salvation all together.
So with the like with the NGO, aside educating people back home on these things, what else do you do?
Yeah, so we are providing, yes, the awareness sessions through training, and also we are providing provisions. I mean, there's always a need for provisions, whether it's clothing, also educational materials. We have a few kids that we're also taking into school for special education as well, because therapy back home is so expensive for most families that can't afford it. And yes, I mean, we are open for any support, even if it's just time support with your time to be able to give us your specialist help or knowledge financially as well. It would be really helpful.
So do you have like a GoFundMe account, or if somebody wants to support, like aside contacting you, is there any other way that they can do so?
So our website has got the donate fund button on there, so feel free to donate. It all goes through there. And of course, if it is clothing or anything like that, you can still leave a message on the same web page, and we'll be able to take those through. We've got a large community of children with albinism, and so we've been able to get them as well some sunscreen creams and Nivea, which is really helpful for them.
Wow, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.